Hello, I'm David Grayson, the Chairman of the National Disability Council. The Council was set up by Parliament to advise the Government on the implementation of the 1995 Disability Discrimination Act, but also to advise on the elimination of discrimination more generally against disabled people. In our meetings with disability organisations and in focus groups with disabled people, the Council has repeatedly been told that media images, including those generated by advertising, has a profound impact, positive or negative, on the way in which they are treated. The objective of this video is to persuade opinion formers like you to examine how your organisation represents disabled people and to see what more you can do. And here it is.
Where does it go?
David, I want you to meet someone.
There's no more hot water, Sylvia. It's all gone, all gone, all gone.
Well, undoubtedly we're going in the right direction. It's just unbearably and painfully slow.
These adverts, which show physical prowess of certain disabled people, usually young men who've become paraplegic at some point in their teenage years, are not really helpful to all other disabled people, and they create the idea that you've got to be accepted, you've got to overcome your impairment.
I don't feel pressurised by ads that show superheroes. I actually quite like it.
Able-bodied athletes are used to sell products. It was fine.
Johnson brings it forward on the far side.
In the middle, little shimmy.
Intercepted by Dick.
Come on, West Ham!
My visual disability doesn't really get in the way of going to West Ham, providing James or Scott are commentating to me.
Come on, Rex!
He's got to score. They want you to tell me what's going on.
This is what Dix has got the ball.
It's complete mayhem.
Dix has put it down.
I think it's great. It just shows somebody who has a disability doing something ordinary and something that everybody else is going to go along and do.
That seems to me a very good use of someone. He's not there for his disability, he's there because he's a fanatical West Ham fan, so I think that's great.
It's very naturalistic, it's how he feels, and it works in the context of the ad.
I think it really celebrated and rejoiced in the difference that is disability. I thought it was great.
What are you drinking? Same again?
Yeah.
No, not for me.
What?
I'm driving.
You won't get pulled. Not on a Sunday.
Give me a half.
Half is what girls drink.
What's the problem there?
I've got to get down my mum's for dinner.
Oh, his mum's for dinner.
Mummy's boy. Come on, Dave. Just one more.
All right, then, get me a pint.
Come on, Dave. Just one more.
Now, I know this is a particular form of being disabled, but it does tar and feather all disabled people with the same brush, and that's horrendous.
There are thousands and thousands of people who have to have assistance with feeding and are still getting on with their lives.
There is only really one word for it, and that is disgusting.
Carrie, this is David, my brother.
Hi.
I was just telling him about, he says that's a beautiful place. Hilly.
First of all, it is really seriously encouraging and exciting and positive to have a deaf professional actor in a mainstream film that just happened to really hit And that's a real positive thing. But then you've got the problems of the fact that he's written in purely as a comic device, no other means, just for comedy, and it's the same kind of strand of comedy that we've been having for years, only just more clever. And it's not actually funny. That's the terrible thing. I mean, maybe hearing people find it funny, but we don't find it that funny.
The fact that the person was actually joking about the deafness, I think is acceptable in that situation.
A disabled pal, friend, brother, sidekick, aficionado, totally normalised as just a bloke, a mate, a brother, and not the funny little weirdo, which is something to do with our impairment. But our hero would never be so horrible as to condescend at them, and actually it's like a role model for behaviour for normal bozos.
Commend me to Hastings. Tell him, Catesby, that Rivers is let blood.
Uncle!
What would you have, my little lord?
Because I'm little like an ape, I think that you should bear me on your shoulders.
Uncle Richard?
Stand low.
I don't think the portrayal of Richard III as a hunchback was acceptable because it's just another example of using disability to paint up villainy.
Adding two impairments, which is what McKellen did in his characterisation, to those which the Tudor historians gave to the non-disabled Richard for Tudor propaganda reasons, to do that in the late 20th century, I think was a disgrace.
Give us a song, somebody, for Jesus' sake. Tom, William. Give us a song.
It's showing a positive portrayal of a disabled person, but it's all being done by non-disabled actors. And whatever anybody says, it just is offensive to see non-disabled actors doing their absolute bestest to emulate disabilities.
As somebody that's coming up for their black belt in Choi Kwang Do, I'd like to meet Daniel Day-Lewis and show him what I can do with my left foot, because that's what he deserves for nicking one of our roles. That's our job, that is.
There's a lot of nonsense talked about how it's essential that disabled people must always play disabled people. I mean, that doesn't happen in any other area of film acting, and it takes away the craft of acting.
There's a lot of money goes into films, a lot of financial risk being taken, and they're not going to give the lead of a film to an unknown when they can give it to Daniel Day-Lewis doing his very good, very passable sort of version of cerebral palsy.
When I wake up, I can see Ben. Ben's my big brother. And I love him. Ben will never walk or talk like me, ever. He's got something called cerebral palsy.
I think that came over quite nice, but obviously again it was a way of catching the public's attention by using young children to actually portray that disability.
The problem is it just turns disabled people into pitiable, pathetic creatures, and so that is the #1 image that really gets my goat.
Close your eyes, give me your hand, darling. Do you feel my heart beating? Do you understand? Do you feel the same? Am I only dreaming? Or is this burning an eternal flame?
It is a bit sickly, but at the end of the day, if it gets money in, I don't really care.
You must steer clear of the patronising, pitying...
It's just an enormous problem because we have the same situation which replays an isolated, sad character against a vacant background which suggests all gloom and doom.
As Flid... Hi, Mole. The other day, I was in here, and there was this absolutely gorgeous girl at the bar. She turned round and looked at me, and our eyes met across the pub. Could have been a lovely moment, but for the fact that obviously next to her was her boyfriend, who also turned around and looked at me and called me a wanker. It made my day.
You have the power to create images. We are not asking for special treatment. We don't want unrealistically positive images. We do want positive engagement. We're looking for a more informed and a more balanced representation of disabled people through the media. We want your response to this initiative, and in particular, to have your feedback on good practice examples that we can use with others. I believe that a new generation of more informed and assertive disabled people are watching the industry, want dialogue, and above all, want progress.